Imagine this: a vast salty lake in the heart of Utah, slowly shrinking, and suddenly, mysterious islands and hidden springs start appearing. Scientists are baffled, and the Great Salt Lake is revealing its secrets, one strange phenomenon at a time. But here's where it gets controversial. The lake's decline might just be the key to unlocking a hidden water resource, and that's where the trouble begins. Let's dive in. The Great Salt Lake is drying up, and with it, strange things are happening. In recent years, mounds covered in phragmites, a type of reed, have started popping up on the drying lakebed off the southeast shore. These aren't just random mounds, they're oases teeming with life, and they're changing the game for Utah scientists. But what's causing them? And this is the part most people miss. The answer lies beneath the lakebed, in a complex network of groundwater channels. Bill Johnson, a professor in the Department of Geophysics at the University of Utah, has a theory. He believes these circular mounds are forming where a subsurface plumbing system is pushing fresh groundwater into the lake and its surrounding wetlands. But where is this water coming from? That's the million-dollar question. Did it spend time underground in the uplands before making its way to the lake? Or did it travel directly to the lake? The mystery deepens. To find out, Johnson and his team, including graduate student Ebenezer Adamako-Mensah, have been busy. They've installed a network of piezometers, instruments that measure underground water pressure, at various depths and locations around one of these mounds, affectionately named Round Spot 9. They're also using aerial electromagnetic surveys to map the lakebed's subsurface. It's like giving the lake an MRI, and the results are fascinating. In February 2025, Johnson brought in the big guns. A Canadian firm, Expert Geophysics, conducted airborne electromagnetic surveys over Farmington Bay. They flew a helicopter in a grid pattern, collecting data that will help locate freshwater deposits lurking under the lakebed. The equipment generates a current that transmits a frequency deep into the lakebed, and a receiver records the electromagnetic signals bouncing back. It's like using a metal detector, but for water. The goal? To create a 3D image of what's under the earth. And this is the part most people miss. This isn't just about finding water. It's about understanding the lake's complex ecosystem and how it's changing. As the lake levels continue to drop, the lakebed is becoming a source of wind-blown dust, affecting Utah's population centers. But here's where it gets controversial. Johnson's research aims to determine whether this groundwater can be tapped to restore the lakebed crusts, reducing dust pollution. But at what cost? Could tapping this resource harm the wetlands? It's a delicate balance, and one that Johnson, who has served on the Great Salt Lake Strike Team, is all too familiar with. Armed with new data, Johnson secured preliminary funding to investigate this underground water resource. His team, including senior geology faculty like Kip Solomon, Mike Thorne, and Michael Zhdanov, is working to discover the breadth and depth of the fresh water under the lake. Solomon's lab is using isotope analysis to determine the age of the groundwater and its recharge elevation. Thorne is constructing on-ground resistivity profiles, and Zhdanov and Michael Jorgensen are processing the electromagnetic data to construct a 3D image of the subsurface. It's a massive undertaking, but the stakes are high. Johnson's curiosity was piqued several years ago when he observed something strange while traveling Great Salt Lake's north arm by airboat. Water and gas were roiling the surface in a circle, suggesting that groundwater was rushing into the lake at that spot. He dropped a depth gauge into the swirl, but it failed to hit the bottom. The mystery deepened, and later he and others noticed mounds appearing on Google Earth images of the Farmington Bay playa. The pieces of the puzzle were starting to come together. But where does this groundwater come from? Previously, it was believed that direct groundwater discharge accounts for just 3% of the lake's water budget. But recently gathered data using chemical mass balance methods indicate it may be as much as 12%. And new insights are emerging. Johnson's team has found fresh water at depth in several spots far offshore, far from where they expected it. They've located fresh water almost everywhere they looked, in tight sediments up to 10,000 feet deep. It's a vast underground reservoir, connected to the surface by a plumbing system that's only now getting close study, thanks in part to the lake's decline. Johnson's research focuses on one of at least 18 mounds detected off the lake's southeast shore. On Round Spot 9 in Farmington Bay, his team has installed 3 sets of 4 piezometers at various distances from the edge of the 250-foot diameter island. The instruments are placed at varying depths, connected to the surface via white PVC pipes. Accompanied by grad students, Johnson has regularly visited the site to recover data, and the story it's telling is intriguing. Near-surface water is the purest at the center of the mound and gets progressively more saline as you move closer to the edge. Deep water, however, is fresh at all locations. In other words, the groundwater is not reaching the surface on the periphery of the island, but mostly at the center. Why? Johnson believes it's because the fresh water in the center is under pressure, and it's capped on the perimeter, preventing it from reaching the surface. And this was the part most people miss. This suggests the presence of a vast underground reservoir connected to the surface by a plumbing system that's only now getting close study. With his colleagues' help, Johnson hopes to discover where this water came from, when it fell as snow, and most critically, how much is there. But here's where it gets controversial. The last thing they want is for this to be characterized as a water resource we should be tapping. It's much more fragile than that, and we need to understand it better. But could it help mitigate dust generation on the exposed playa? The debate is open, and the stakes are high. What do you think? Should we tap this resource or leave it be? The comments are yours.